Alright, episode 2. Market opens in 4 minutes. So, I'll tell you my thoughts and ideas for today. And then, yeah. So, basically, um, the plan for today is to stay neutral. I'm staying a little bit cautious, obviously, because, you know, um, the market was bearish into the overnight session. London session showed, towards the end of the sessions, showed some strength here. ES showed more strength, so I'm more bullish on ES. In terms of volume wise, we are opening in volume area, but once we escape the area, should move higher into whichever direction. We know they're selling here. We know that there's selling here. And we have support here. Gonna get rid of these as they do not matter. So what I'm thinking for today is we're probably gonna be ranging within here after coming into some kind of resistance either here or here. I think it's very possible we can come up to here, although I don't think we're gonna hold it if we do because of this resistance right here. As you can see, not once, not twice, not three, not 4 times. Yeah, 4 times. 5 times actually. We came in and showed that the sellers are extremely aggressive within this price range right here. Especially here too. That's what caused this huge move downwards. So right now, all I'm thinking is market's gonna open. It's probably gonna have a little bit of a decision here. But whichever direction it goes in initially is likely to be not the direction for the day, right? If we go down on market open, I'm expecting price to find support down here. I'm not really expecting price to, I mean, it's definitely possible that we can come down all the way to here, or possibly here, especially since we have selling here and we're seeing a continuation on ES. The 6,300 level is an extremely important level. If we close below that on the weekly, then we're going to have some trouble because that's the call and put area is a lot of options, volume within this area. So we just need to make sure that for that level, we hold that towards the end of the week. Market's opening. There's going to be some kind of aggressive buying here, in my opinion. I forgot where exactly I drew up this support from. I honestly don't think that we can count that as support anymore, but market, I think that there's really not much holding it, so we're going to come down to here. Again, we hit these sellers. These sellers are pushing us lower. I don't see any point in which there's aggressive buying within this area, right, apart from this move here. But that just means that there's low volume within that area. So there's definitely volume within this price range though, on previous areas, just for this session, you know. So, okay, so we're seeing absorption here of these sellers. The buyers are starting to, knock back. Yeah, there's really not much to do in terms of trading today, um, because I am not bullish nor bearish. So, all I'm looking for today is just price to, I mean, this is a possibility. I just need to check the news for today. Yeah, we don't have news today. So we saw absorption of those sellers. So it's definitely possible that we're going to come up and then, absorb these sellers too. If buyers are willing to accept this price, then they're likely to accept this price too. Basically just thinking that anything above this range, maybe here, but once we defeat these sellers, we're probably going to have trouble with this area right here. But overall, once we, exhaust one wave of sellers, it's more likely that we're going to exhaust the second wave just due to momentum. Looks like we're chopping in this area. Wasn't really expecting that. I guess we can say that that's valid. Had consolidation here. We had some kind of consolidation within this range from here to here. So I guess you could say that it's plausible that we're just going to have a very undecisive move here. It looks like, the sellers and the buyers are just battling it out. Not really having any big moves here just yet. I mean, the sellers are here and the buyers are here within this bottom range. Possibly get on the 1 minute. Let's check out this bottom area. Okay, so some volume down here and here. So it looks like there's buyers in here and here and here. So the sellers are pushing price on this level. So we did exhaust them on this level just now. We'll see if they can exhaust these sellers. Right. Like even when we take the first candle of this move, it's still here because there's a lot of, selling in this area up here. So it's likely that we're gonna come up to here and then respond bearishly. I'm not really expecting any bullish moves for today, considering we have 1, 2, and 3 areas of selling. Along with that, I wonder how the volume's gonna look. So we have, we had a lot of volume on this move. Actually, there's a lot of volatility right there. So I guess the next area would probably be here. And then we would find fair value within the middle point, probably like around here or something, yeah. So right here is like point in which price would want to return to if we come up to here, right? So we're just chopping. That's interesting. So we know there's buyers here and there's sellers here. Today is just not a great day for trading at all. Although could have some good merit in just entering if we get a retest of this on a short. Although I wouldn't, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like to do that because this is just escaping, the volume middle point. So, enough momentum would easily push price higher into this next range. I just need to see how order flow is this morning, and because I'm definitely not thinking about taking any longs here. I'm pretty much just focusing on taking a short here, like down to here possibly. Like when we're in a situation where we need to take a short, I'm not really enjoying the short, so I'll make it a very tight take profit. Like I think that we can come up to here, hit that. I think with the amount of times we've tested it, we just know that they are present. That's ES. NASDAQ. Okay, so that's why ES was selling off. We came in, we hit this quite perfectly actually. I think that this was I honestly couldn't tell you. I'm pretty sure this is just yeah, this level is important because you see we had huge volume on the buy side and the sellers just completely negated it. We came into this range, we sold off. We tested it again. Came in aggressive buying, couldn't hold. So I think that for NASDAQ, there's actually a lot more possibilities to be had. Again, the next point in which we would need to watch out for is here. Right. So we have two ranges here. I think for the market open, NASDAQ's definitely more bullish. I was thinking that, the overnight session kind of told us that NASDAQ was a bit more bearish, but then, it kind of just, ES came up and made a higher high. NASDAQ came in, made a lower high, couldn't even, come above here. It's a big SMT divergence. So, the index that usually, but I guess we could just take this into account that ES already hit the sell area for today. All the contracts have already been sold off that needed to be sold. there's aggressive buying in this area too. This was actually, I know this area. Huh. So we have two lines. Just anything within this range would just be aggressive buying, I would say. For NASDAQ at least, I'm watching this because if these lines break, then I think that's, kind of just the sign to start shorting. You could break these. I don't really see any other aggressive buying, to be honest. Like, there's not really much to be afraid of. Market's probably going to be going down today. Unless, like, I'm not getting anything shouting at me that we're going to be bullish. Like, order flow is pretty much just bearish. We're seeing a continuation on this selling. Again, ES selling off. So let's see if ES wants to make any moves right now. I think if I'm going to take a trade on any index, it's going to be NASDAQ today. Let's check out the other markets. We'll definitely have to see. Bit of a short squeeze. Is this the start of a downtrend? Well, I would have to look into it a little bit more. Gold, on the other hand, what the? Alright, let's see. We had aggressive buying here, playing out. I guess, honestly, in my opinion, I think this is a pretty good setup in my eyes. If we break this, could enter. Although I would have preferred an entry on somewhere with aggressive buying. Looks like the buyers really stepped up and pushed us out of this range down here. So this is just a classic example of chop and why it happens, because we have aggressive buying on one price range, and then we have aggressive selling at higher price range. So if they're evenly matched, they're just basically exchanging contracts, just consolidating within this range. The thing about this is that when this happens and market open, a lot of the volume and volatility gets dried up in this range. So if price moves out of this range, it's definitely not a guarantee that we're going to be going higher. Not a typical setup that I enjoy. Because for me, I would prefer for price to move out of the selling, exhaust those sellers within the first like 15 minutes. Um, just because with that much volume and that much agreement on the momentum, we pretty much have a very good setup in which we can have good confirmation that price is going higher into the next resistance area or the next area fair value, which is around here. You know, we're gonna go to where volume has been because the market is going to agree on a higher price for it to consolidate. We'll have to see. These kinds of setups I don't typically enjoy, especially since ES is so bearish from London session. So Nasdaq's definitely bullish. ES is definitely, for the most part, going to be bearish once we hit that. So I think that this is like a setup that is okay to take on Nasdaq, but just the fact that we have so many selling areas on ES, it's just like, oh my god, it's just ruining the trade for Nasdaq because you could have a good setup on Nasdaq and yet ES is eating shit, and that will affect Nasdaq heavily. So I'm gonna wait because I think that once ES hits this area, we're definitely gonna get some selling, and if we can get some kind of confirmation that ES is entering like a bullish buy area, we can enter, right? Because I think that this sell-off should be quite big for ES. Not so much Nasdaq, but it's just going to give us a better price for this Nasdaq trade that we can enter on. But I would prefer for, I don't know. Let's see, if we can get to the bottom of this range, I know that the aggressive buyers aren't too crazy here. There's not much to really confirm it with. I guess you could say like I would have loved to see huge wicks, like down to here, and then another wick down to here, another wick down to here, and like aggressive selling, just so I could have confirmation that the buyers are really aggressive within this bottom range, so that I could enter on this initial sell-off on Nasdaq. Right. Because right now, there's not much to confirm whether or not Nasdaq is going to be able to keep up the momentum due to the fact that ES is causing it to be bearish, right? That's the thing, like, I don't understand how people trade without looking at both indexes. Because you could literally open a position with the best setup possible on Nasdaq, and then ES just hits a complete wall, brick wall. It just hits a ceiling, and that ceiling has a lot of aggressive sellers, and those sellers cause ES to fall, which then causes Nasdaq to fall, right? If ES could come down to here, I think that would be the best possible setup for today, possibly. Um, Although we know that Nasdaq is responding super bearish off of that, um, if this was not here, and we just like if this wasn't here, and Nasdaq was just coming up, and then ES caused it to fall, I would say that we could still enter on this bottom range, but just due to the fact that there's also sellers means that we don't really have. Now we have people who are probably looking at this and saying, all right, well, I don't want to buy in this area because I know that there's sellers. You know what I mean? There's aggressive selling. Higher low, pretty expected. A lot of the volume is down here, which is interesting to say the least. That's interesting too. That's pretty bullish. Usually, when the volume's at the bottom of the candle, it's pretty indicative that the buyers are controlling the volume. They are aggressively buying. So Nasdaq could easily come in and take that, but alright, let's see. ES is coming into that range, not selling off. So I still don't like this entry, ES has so many things. Like, this is a good area, right? There's low volume. Let me reassure myself. This could just be consolidation sell-off, which is when let's see, because ES could blast. Hopefully, we could see ES blast through that like super quick, and then honestly, like, I would like to see it hit this area, sell off, and then I could maybe enter. This is just a classic example of when you need to be really careful on entering. Because sure, you could get a good trade here, like, whenever you see these happening, you usually see the aggressive. Well, we're obviously in an uptrend right now on the higher time frame, so there are going to be bullish moves pretty much this entire wave. So we come down after this sell-off on a resistance, come in, test it, reject it. When we see this, we kind of know that we can just, if you're a scalper, you could just enter and then put your take profit here, stop loss below the aggressive selling or aggressive buying, because you know that if price comes lower, you have these aggressive buyers that are going to back up your play. And if that doesn't hold, you know that the entire day is probably likely to be bearish, and we're probably going to come down to here, which is just unlikely, right? Today's just chop, you know. It's good to definitely know when the price of an asset is going to be choppy or not for the day. Because if you are starting out within the middle price for all the volume, you know that there's going to be indecisiveness from the buyers and sellers. Sellers are going to want to sell at the higher end of the range. Buyers are going to want to buy at the bottom end of the range. 5.5 times out of 10, you're going to see the buyers win. But, if you're a seasoned trader, you're basically just looking to decipher whether or not it is aggressive enough buying. Like right now, this looks good. This is casual bullish behavior. I don't see price falling below here without, a good reason to. We've already tested this 3 times. I'm expecting higher lows to continue. But is this a good setup? It's like an okay setup. Like a great setup presents itself, and you have to size up. These kinds of setups, like I would probably size down on this pretty heavily. Like maybe 0.25% risk for an S tier setup. I would say 0.5% to 0.75% is a good amount of risk, depending on your risk to reward ratio. If your risk to reward is 1 to 1, I would say that 0.5 is good. If you have a trade in which you have an S tier setup, and then with that S tier setup you can get S tier risk management, which just means that you could risk only a little bit because you have aggressive. Let's say that you have a chart that goes like this, and then it comes down, and you are here, and let's just say that if you look at the volume, right? Let's just say that this is the SVP, right? Actually, no, it's not a good one. All the volume is up here, and then the volume is like dwindling down. This basically just means that the sellers caused this huge sell-off at this original point and then just continued to sell off, and the sellers were aggressively selling and the buyers were just allowing this to happen. If the buyers were present, they would aggressively buy within these areas, and we would see consolidation. So we know that this is a weak move. And if we see bullish order flow, this could be pretty much anything, right? But I can't really explain bullish order flow. It's kind of just something that you see with your own eyes. It's like good higher lows. So let's say that you measure the volume for this initial move, right? And the volume, kind of like spikes up right around here, right? So we have a big volume spike here, and then we have it here. So what I'm looking for is bullish order flow coming into here. We know that this is a good volume area where the sellers initiated the last push of this move. So we know that if these sellers get exhausted and we're in a strong uptrend on the higher time frame, we know that the majority of the time this is going to get price is probably going to be wanting to come back up to here to accept this price. Because if there's, let's say there's higher volume from previous, price action, and the high volume is super dense right here, right? Price came in, hit this area, and let's say it just instantly rejects it. We know that the buyers and the sellers are agreeing that they don't want price to come into this range because they don't see that as the fair value for that asset. So price is going to reject that strong. We have this resistance, and let's say we have a clean candle closure above this, right? Now, let's say that so let's say that you have like a huge amount of selling volume that comes in like right here before this move, and we see a big candle wick, right? And then we see following that a lot of bullish volume. We know that the sellers tried to push price, but the buyers were aggressive. That's how you know that the buyers are in that price range right there. So that means that you can put your stop loss just below that, or you could put it just like within the 75 range of here, because price may come down and push on here one more time. Or maybe if it comes down and comes into here, it's probably going to accept that area as the fair value. So, you're better off just choosing this as your sell, your stop loss. Now in this setup, this is like why I love this setup so much, because you have your stop loss here, and you can put your take profit all the way up here, because there's no volume within this area. There's a gap in volume, which means that if the buyers are aggressive, order flow is good, price rejected this area, and we see these sellers get exhausted, we know that the buyers are there and they are aggressive and they want higher prices, which means that they're going to get it extremely easy, and price is probably going to just shoot up relatively quickly. Now whatever it does up here is pretty much doesn't matter. You put your take profit here and you just get out of that position. No taking out profit at the area, just get out of that position. That's what an S tier setup for me looks like. We had, oh, okay, so see, like, we had a setup like that, right? This is exactly what I was looking for. Like, this is exactly what we had, right? Doesn't matter about the volume before that, because I'm not going to do all that. We came down aggressively selling, and what did we have? We had low volume in this area. From here to here, we had basically no volume at all. So what did I do? Well, oh, it was on NASDAQ. So we had sellers, well, I had resistance lines, like one here, and then like another one here. So basically what I did was, I entered after those sellers were exhausted. And as you can see here, this is a perfect example of market open. We saw the sellers get exhausted. We have the volume and volatility to make the move. We have low volume, so we know this is going to be a quick move. So when the volume and stuff starts to dry up, that's when you exit, or at your initial take profit. My take profit was like here, but we saw this consolidation. We saw that Luckily though, I moved it down and put it here. Price did end up going higher, but you know, that was just my take profit, right? That's a very, very safe setup. I risked up, I risked 0.5%, and I ended up making 0.5%. 1-to-1 RR. I put my stop where the nearest aggressive buyers were. I think it was, um, I believe it was like down here. There was something down here that, you know, something on that day that told me there was going to be aggressive buying. Again, could have entered here right as soon as this was exhausted. But now we have this to deal with. ES is definitely gonna have more opportunities here. NASDAQ, actually NASDAQ is definitely the one with more opportunities. See, you can see exactly the same situation. We have low volume within this range, also from here to here. We can expect that if buyers are aggressive, if you have the right read on order flow and you know that buyers are aggressive and the volume is low, you have like a great setup on your hands, you know. It's just about sizing up based on the context of that move. You know, why was that initial move caused? What initially caused it, right? Is it a temporary cause or is it a permanent cause, right? Like, is it going to be positioning us into a bearish scenario, or is it just volatility and, you know, a pullback? Like, this initial move just recently was caused because of the earning reports. Um, Probably a lot of other stuff that I don't know about. But from what I saw, I could see that this was just, you know, a temporary one with, you know, possibly a bigger pullback if you know, if possible. Like, I I I could have entered here, right? Could have. It was definitely within my favor to do so. I did think we were going to be bearish for the day had we not held um, these right here. I could have entered here, right? Put my stop here. But, you know, it's just about knowing what you can and can't control in the market. Right now, I can't control whether or not I have high confidence that price is going to come into here and have some sell-off, but I can't control that, right? So there's definitely still possibility of taking a trade today, but I think that the opportunity has pretty much vanished. So, I mean, that was my analysis for today. I don't think that there's anything else I could do, right? Like, the only possibilities I see is we exhaust these sellers, and then we get a pullback. I mean, I still wouldn't enter. It's just not. NASDAQ's definitely going to be seeing some good, you know, because there's just not enough, you know, like I would have to put my stop loss here where these aggressive buyers are. I think that it could come down possibly to here. But overall today it's just gonna be rough because have aggressive selling here, like very aggressive. So I don't think that there's much opportunity apart from just entering and then putting my take profit here. But again, I'm not going to do that because that would mean I have to put my stop loss 100 points below, and then it's like a 130 point move, so it's like a 1.3 RR. If we get a good enough pullback, I think there's a chance I could enter. But only if we get a good enough pullback. I mean, like I said, every time that we enter one of these selling ranges, there's always a possibility that it's starting a mini trend to the downside with a continuation, right? We just don't know. We just don't know. We would have no idea whether or not, those sellers are super aggressive and they want that price to go lower. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, there's definitely good structure here, higher lows, but there's nothing I can do now. Well, that is it for today.